These are animals.
You cannot do
These
it.
aren't people.
What if you weren't really seeing the whole story? What if we're not trapped, but we're being reminded of how precious liberty really is? What if in the midst of all the darkness, we're getting a chance to shine brightly together? What if we weren't really divided? What if we were becoming united again? Let's tell the whole story of who we really are. The America, where we learn new things together, where we build new things together, where we are revitalized, redeemed, and restored. I'm Jade Simmons, and I'm running with you so that we can finally become who we've always said we've been. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, for real.
I'm Jade Simmons, a candidate for President of the United States, and I approve this message.
Hey everyone, it's Jade Simmons here, your only truly independent, extremely serious candidate for President of the United States. And as you know, we are, less than really 2 full weeks away now from the 2020 elections. This is the moment we've been waiting for. It's also the moment that we promised you we'd stay standing for. A lot of people who will remain nameless have predicted that we would not make it this far, that we'd be nothing but a vapor come November. And so we are just proud that our first real promise we made, we've been able to keep it to you. And the other promise that we made is that we would be one of the most transparent examples of a presidential campaign that you have ever seen. So we are going to spend tonight talking about one of the issues that is on many of your minds. It's on our hearts. It's the last thing keeping us up at night, not out of fear or anxiety, because we do not believe that we're supposed to operate in a spirit of fear, anxiousness, anxiety, but that we have wanted to make sure that we can be available to as many Americans as possible. So for any of you who've had questions about our viability, please stay tuned in. If you know others who've been curious, how in the world can she even pull this off? Is it even legally viable? Is it possible for an independent? Has it ever been done? Well, not in a very long time. Our first president was an independent, which is what we believe all presidents should be. Americans should not have to wonder the day after election day whose side their president is on, and whether or not they'll spend the next 4 years snatching back everything that's been done before, pretending like no good came out of the previous administration. We see that every 4 years. We believe it's time for that to stop. We believe the role of president should be an independent, nonpartisan one, and that your president, which is what we pledge and what we stand for, is here not to drive home any personal agenda, not to bring you a lopsided mission, but that we come to you looking for as many ways possible to serve as many Americans possible. So tonight we're going to talk about what's going on with us in Texas and Indiana. I'll also mention the fate of a few other states. To date, in over 40 states, I believe, you can vote for my candidacy. I'm running with my brilliant running mate, Claudelia J. Rose, and we have been standing strong for you for the last 10 months. And because of the hard work of the Operation Restoration team, we have gone state by state. We've done our due diligence. In the majority of states right now, you can vote for us as a registered write-in. We have a video right now that lives in our Facebook feed. It's on Instagram, on social media, that explains to you the how of the write-in process. I may cover that again at the end of this. But we want you to know there's a big difference between writing your best friend in, or even your favorite candidate who's no longer running. If you write them in and they did not do the work that we did, which was to register in each state as a write-in, no matter how brilliant they are, no matter how viable they used to be when they were previously running, they are no longer eligible to be a write-in candidate because they did not register to write in. So we want you to know there's a difference. And when you write us in your ballot in the state that we are registered in as write-ins, that vote counts the same as it does if my name were appearing on the ballot. There are states like Oklahoma and Louisiana where you're going to see my name, right next to the other guys and women, of course. But the majority of the states were running as a registered write-in. And then there are a few states that we are challenging, and that's what we're going to focus on tonight. So you're going to share this with anybody who's been curious about what these challenges mean. If you have friends and family from Texas, from Indiana, especially from South Carolina, New Mexico, Mississippi, Arkansas, Nevada, you're going to tag them so that we can help them understand whether or not I'm available to them, whether or not I will become available to them, or will they have to pick a second choice? Why are we being transparent? Well, our promise to you is that we would be transparent, we'd be the most transparent you've seen of politicians. We've lived up to that. Already we've made a name for ourselves as bringing the most real talk of any of the presidential candidates. We don't double talk. We don't run from the issues. We don't dodge questions. We answer everything straight up. We'll be doing that again tonight. Our other promise to you is that while we believe a large role of Operation Restoration has been to restore hope and faith, not just in our politics, but in our leaders in general, we also wanted to stand strong long enough for many of you to look in the mirror yourselves and see that you are called to be leaders who stand with us on this journey. We stand firmly by the idea that the next president will not be able to do the job of restoration, recovery, reconciliation by themselves. They will need to do the job of igniting millions of Americans to lean into that role of leadership with them. And so as you're beginning to now look at your leaders who are running for this office, you want to ask yourselves, do they have what it takes, not just to be in charge, not just to bring forth solutions, but do they have what it takes to ignite leadership in others, in everyday Americans who may be so focused, rightfully so, on themselves, their family, their own stuff? What leader can we imagine now helping us all to broaden the lens a bit, to be able to think about our neighbors, even if they live on the other side of the aisle, to be able to think about those who don't live where we live, who don't do what we do, who don't live like we live? Can we begin now to find a space in our hearts and our minds to provide solutions for more than just ourselves? That's what I believe. That's the kind of leadership required. We're going to dive in, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to focus mostly tonight on Texas and Indiana to help you understand what's going on there. You've seen some of our advertising that's been saying we're taking on Texas and we're taking on Indiana. I want to explain what that means. So unfortunately, one of the big discoveries we've had out here on the campaign trail was how big of a deal candidate suppression is. And when I tell you, man, it's been eye-opening to know that Republicans and Democrats don't seem to like each other on the surface. They don't seem to work together very often, especially in our most polarized age ever in politics. What they do seem to agree on consistently is that it would be better for them to keep out the presence of third-party and independent candidates. Now, it has been fed to you the lie that these candidates are not serious, that people like myself can't be in this to win, because how could we possibly? I think someone even said that I said there was no way I could win. You have never heard that come out of my mouth. That would, if you hear me ever say something like that, know that there has been a clone and a robot has taken over my body and my mouth, because I would never say anything like that. I'm in the business of helping people see that they can do the impossible, especially where their leadership and their impact is concerned. So the only reason I can stand here is if I can promise you viability, and I have to also be forthcoming with you on where we are viable. Right now, as of today, if you went and wrote my name in the state of Texas, if you wrote my name on the write-in blank, because there is a write-in blank, we can't promise you that that vote would count for me. And why is that? It's because we're in the process of challenging Texas, who has denied the validity of my candidacy. Now, let me tell you a little bit of what we can share. We are in the process now of doing a legal challenge, meaning that we're working with lawyers, and we will be going to court over the state of Texas and the state of Indiana, possibly as well the states of South Carolina, New Mexico, and Mississippi, I believe it is. But we wanted to focus on Texas and Indiana because those are the two sure things that we know we are going to be battling for. Texas actually accepted my candidacy, and we rejoiced because that's 38 electors. It's also my current home state. I've been here since 2001. I am definitely a Texan at this point, though not a native Texan. I'm originally from South Carolina, but I've been here. My family has been raised here. Our kids are born here. And so we are very excited to be able to go to the polls and vote for a candidate we believe in. And right now that is in jeopardy. And here's why. They accepted our candidacy. We got a letter from the Secretary of State saying, congratulations, you are now officially a write-in candidate for the state of Texas. We rejoice. We let some of our supporters know. And then in about 4 or 5 days, what happened after that is that we got another letter saying, so sorry, we know we told you yes last week, but this week we're telling you no. And we were looking to see where did we go wrong. We thought maybe some of our electors didn't come through. Did we forget something really vital? Did we not do our part? And sure enough, we did make a mistake. We left off a date of birth on our paperwork. And because of that missing date of birth, my candidacy was rescinded. So 1 week we were told we were good to go. A few days later, because of this missing date of birth, that candidacy was revoked. Now, why do we call that candidate suppression? Well, we actually drove all the way to Austin to fill in the date of birth ourselves. We didn't want to risk emailing it or calling it in, but it was not accepted because at this point it was after the deadline. Now, without going into too many details that would put our own, secretive legal strategy in jeopardy, what I will say is we believe that something like a missing date of birth, or if someone reversed the numbers in a phone number by accident, that those should not be things that keep the candidate off of your ballot or keep them unavailable to you as a write-in. We believe in that strongly. We believe that that statute is wrong. And what it does is it finds all of these minor ways to get rid of other voices. And so people say, why would you even challenge something like Texas? They're such a big state. Well, they're a major state that's in play politically. We also know that right here in Texas, we have many Operation Restoration supporters, people who, like 60% of Americans, are not feeling either of the other two political parties. And so we're doing a couple of things here. Why Texas? Well, we believe that this was a bad call, and we feel awful for other candidates who were eliminated because of these minor reasons. The work we had to do to make sure that we had all 38 electors, this was a lot of work that our campaign had to put in to come down to this missing date. Do I wish someone had caught the missing date? You better believe it. But I also believe that everything happens for a reason. Had we done everything perfectly, didn't make that mistake, we'd be coming to you in Texas. I'd be very excited about it. But we wouldn't have known the kind of little things behind the scenes that were in play that continue to oppress voters' options. We believe that candidate suppression, this is our big why. Why would we even challenge these states going up against Goliath, right? The system. We believe that candidate suppression is another form of voter suppression, period, point blank. If you do not have all of the options available to you on your ballot, how can you make a completely informed decision about who it is that you want in these offices? It's not fair that Oklahoma and Louisiana have a chance to vote for what they feel is their best option, and Texas or Indiana doesn't. And so we have supporters in both of these states who are waiting right now to be able to vote on us. And we have asked you to wait. So we know that early voting has begun in Indiana and in Texas. If you go to the polls right now, you write my name in. If we win our legal case, then your vote will count. If we don't, your vote will not count. So what we're asking is for you to wait for us to give you our next update on whether or not we're winning the case, looks like we're going to win the case, what the outcome is going to be, because we want your vote to count. Or, you're not going to hear another candidate tell you this, we want you to have the option to vote for whomever you feel is your second choice. Now, I've had supporters say, we don't have a second choice. We only want to vote for you. We appreciate that sentiment. but we ask you to go, sit, pray, do whatever you have to do, and just see if you can be comfortable with the second choice. If that's the case, here's what we're going to do. We're going to come to you again on October 26th, give you an update. Of course, you got all the way to November 3rd, but we're going to give you an update on October 26th. We'll tell you where things are standing so that you can make a decision. If you write me in anyway, let's say we don't win the case and you write me in. What your vote will be is simply a protest vote, but it won't count for me, right? The other good news is that write-in votes are not counted until the end of the election. So they'll count all the people on the ballot first. I don't know how many times they'll do that. I believe this is going to be a long election night. And then later, when all those votes are counted, most states do it this way, they'll go through and count the write-in votes at the end. So we like that because it gives us some time to really get this done for you. I believe strongly that when people see this stuff going on behind the scenes, they're not going to mind the inconvenience that this may cause for them, because we believe we have to do this not just for us, but unfortunately for all of the candidates who've been knocked out because of little things like this. We feel we are standing for them. But maybe most importantly, we believe there are other leaders coming down the pipeline that are breaking from behind party lines. And we know this because we see them on the local level. We run into independent candidates at the local level going through the same stuff, finding it hard to get their calls returned, to get their questions answered. People are putting them through the ringer, no media attention. No other political candidates will sit down with them. You as voters need to know that at this point, the people you have elected are more loyal to their parties than they are to you. They would rather make sure they are good with their party partnerships than sit down with out-of-the-box candidates who may have solutions for their constituents. That's a bad thing. There are secretaries of state, elections offices who have no problem losing your application. That moves us to Indiana. That's the other state we promised to be transparent about. And if we have time, I'll take questions as well at the end. But in the state of Indiana, we have a really clear case there for what we believe is voter suppression. And we're going to give you as much background as we can if you're just tuning in. Not too many details so that we screw up our own legal strategy, but enough for you to know that we're being transparent and bringing you the whole story. Notice in Texas, I told you the role that we played in that. We left off the date of birth, and so the candidacy was denied because of that reason. We don't believe that that's a valid reason when it's so easily able to be corrected. And instead of just calling in that correction or letting us know that the date was missing, we actually filed before the deadline. They could have let us know. They actually approved it themselves first, which meant must not have been that big of a deal when their own people missed the same thing. So we see, Kobe says, Jade Simmons are nothing for me. I appreciate that. I appreciate it. And we're fighting to make sure that it's really an option for you and that it's going to be a vote that counts powerfully. So hang in there with us. And so in Texas, we told you fully what happened there. Let me switch quickly to Indiana. I got to be honest, y'all. Indiana, this one gets me because it's so blatant. Indiana had a deadline of Monday, July 6th at 12 noon. Some of the states will put a time deadline as well as a date. We do our due diligence. We call to make sure the deadlines haven't shifted because of COVID. This deadline actually shifted because it was originally due on the Friday before. They realized it was the 4th of July holiday, moved their deadline to Monday. We did the work of finding our electors. We filed our paperwork and we GPS tracked it. You better believe it with UPS. And our paperwork arrived at the state capitol, which is the only designation for where it was supposed to be. Our paperwork arrived Monday, July 6th at 9:02 a.m. We have UPS paperwork that says we were there. And for whatever reason, they allowed our paperwork to sit in the mailroom until after the noon deadline. And once the deadline was passed, they called us to let us know, or they let us know that our candidacy was not accepted because it didn't meet the deadline. Well, we said, no, just an error. Somebody in your mailroom's got it wrong. Surely we can figure this out because we have proof. And we've sent them the proof. They've seen the proof and have still denied it. So apparently it was our job to get inside of their mailroom and deliver our paperwork from their mailroom floor to the desk of the Secretary of State. I'm being facetious, of course. Nothing in their guidelines, in their rule book says that it has to be on anyone's desk. It has to be at this address, the state capitol. We did it. We did that part. We made no mistakes, no error. We have validation and proof. So you better believe that we are going to court over that in Indiana. Here's what we found out behind the scenes. Listen to this. Those of you who think you're making a big mess, you're going to screw things up. I'm going to talk to you next about, are we doing more harm than good? I'll tell you why we believe that is not the case. Listen, we need to get up in arms over the right thing. Instead of casting our suspicion on independent candidates, we need to cast our suspicion on the media that refuses to bring their story to us, even though they are technically obligated because of a fair coverage act with the media, where they're supposed to. If they cover Donald Trump and they cover Joe Biden, they should cover Jade Simmons, they should cover Joe Jorgensen, but they don't even uphold their own statutes in the media. You should be suspicious about that. You should be suspicious about the fact that Republicans and Democrats team up to keep independents off the stage. Why? Why not let these poor little write-in, zero chance having candidates on the stage? It's because they know that our voices resonate with yours now more than theirs do. More than theirs do. They know that. And there is a risk to them to allow you to hear from us. We've had producers from ABC who have said, we've been following her, but she's too compelling. We can't risk showing her, or it's going to mess up Joe Biden. Hand to God. These are the things that are happening behind the scenes. In Indiana, the very council that denied our candidacy is made up of 2 Republican council, 2 Democratic council, and 0 independent council. So this 4-person council got together and decided that my candidacy was not going to count. So when we challenged, there's an official challenge process. We went through that process, and we were informed after digging that the same group that denied my candidacy would be the people they'd have to call together to see if they wanted to repeal their own decision. What's the odds of that happening? So you understand, right now we're finding out that many states don't have representation within their state house, within their elections councils, within their secretaries of state to fend for independent candidates. So we think this is something Americans should be up in arms about, because these are choices being denied to you. How awful is it in Indiana to finally have an option you believe in and then watch the state of Indiana fight really hard to make sure you don't mess up the candidates they would prefer to win? Most of our issues have been in red states. That has been the truth. But we do believe that what we're seeing in Indiana is both parties joining forces, because they don't want my candidacy to challenge their preferred candidate. We do now know that both sides are concerned that I will split their vote, Republicans and Democrats. And we say, listen, America, wake up. When's the last time you have a candidate who is causing both parties to have concern? That tells you that we're now finding a candidacy that can bridge the gap. That's what you're hearing. So are we doing more harm than good? I want to get there. Let me just give you quickly where else we may be challenging. South Carolina, my home state. Isn't that something? My state of birth and the state I live in, having trouble with both of those states there. We may be pushing forward with a challenge there on terms of, based on COVID restrictions, they required 10,000 signatures, and there weren't even 10,000 people out and about on the streets of South Carolina, which was a good thing, because their governor had, when we landed, had just put down stronger COVID restrictions. So we were there. We've been taking a lot of precautions with our team on the ground. In some states, we chose the states that did not have write-in capability. We went to those states to do the hard work of signatures to get on the ballot. South Carolina is one of those. New Mexico may be another one as well. Here's where you'll know for sure. On Monday, October 26th, next Monday, we'll let you know which states we're going to have to drop and sacrifice, unfortunately. We hate that term behind the scenes here, because we really want to be on the ballot for all of these states. But we're going to then put our energy most likely into Texas and Indiana. We do have some tricks up our sleeve, so to speak, where those other states are concerned. But we want to let you know, so that we've been telling you to free your vote. right? To not allow any political party, that's right, to have control of your vote. Marvelous says voting independent will truly make us independent. That's it. And that us, I know you're going to talk about minorities in the next part of this, but that us is everybody. Imagine the outcomes we could demand from our political leaders if they didn't know which way we were going. Imagine African Americans, minority groups, if nobody could predict that we were Democrat or predict as Christians that we were Republican. Do you know how differently they'd have to work to serve us? That's real power. So when someone says you're taking Biden's votes, you're taking Trump's votes, that already is the wrong language. These are our votes, not Operation Restoration, Jade's or Claudelia's. These are your votes as people. These are our votes as American citizens. We need to free that vote. So we will also always prioritize people over politics. We're not going to hold your vote hostage. If we are not a viable option for you in your state, October 26th, we will let you know the challenge states. We will tell you if we're releasing that state, and you'll have to either vote your second choice. I know it's a distant second choice. Some of you said you're not voting president, you're only voting local. That's between you and your loved ones, your God. If you pray over who you vote for, we want you to continue to do that work. And we want you right now to understand there is no defeat in this. We have already won. So no crocodile tears over this. Don't cry for me. Don't cry for yourself. You still go to the polls in power and vote your best judgment. Do not be forced to vote one way or the other. Do not allow anyone to be entitled, but we will do our part. We will do our due diligence. We will fight until the last moment. And then October 26th, we'll let you know if there are states we're releasing, we're no longer challenging. That's our drop date, right? Our drop it date. Texas and Indiana, we're most likely going to push on those all the way through to the election, which leads us to our final question, our main question here. Are we doing more harm than good? So the role of justice is difficult. And most times when people fight through for something they believe is for the greater good, the people who would benefit from it most just find it painful in the meantime. And I was telling my team today, Trish, I saw you there. I was telling my team today, I think one of the main reasons people give up at the finish line is because they're afraid to win. We're not afraid to win. And that's mostly because we know we've already won. To find out that there are so many Americans, we believe millions. We have a stealth constituency out there. They are inboxing us all the time. We have brand new baby voters, 18-year-olds, just turned 18, who are running to the polls for us, and they are writing us in. People are sending us pictures of their ballots with their write-in. And that really blesses us because it meant that we gave powerful options to people who had already determined they weren't voting. Can you imagine? Some were just like, I can't do it. I'm not going to do it this time. Or others who'd said, I'm just going to vote for local and state. I can't pull a lever for any of the presidential candidates. They found a home in us. Others who said, I was going to vote red because that's what I've always done. But over the last 8 years, 6 years, I haven't really resonated with my own party. I don't see myself there. I don't hear my heart there. We hear it. They hear it in ours. People who said I was going to vote blue because that's what you're supposed to do. And I didn't feel comfortable about it. So I was voting for you. So we're proud. We won already. So we know that we're not doing more harm. What if we end up holding up the process, hijacking the process? Well, listen, this is stuff that we believe needs to be exposed and needs to be dismantled. So we don't opt out of that because it is inconvenient or because it is painful, right? So we believe that it's best to push through the pain of these moments so that we can see what's true and then make a better judgment call as a people. I believe our political system is long overdue for change. You won't find many people who disagree with that. Even the people who disagree with my candidacy always start out by saying the two-party system sucks. But we say stop before you get to the but. Just stop at this thing doesn't work. It hasn't worked for a long time. It no longer serves who it said it was going to serve. Stop right there. Don't put a but on that. Just stop right there and deal with that issue. That's what we're dealing with. So you'll see us challenge in that way where Texas and Indiana are concerned, first and foremost. And we also believe we have a role into the future, which is that restoration is not a 10-month job. It's not a 2020 job. It's a forever job. And we believe that a part of restoration of our nation will include watching, helping, nurturing, mentoring other maverick, rebel, out of the box, alien leaders who are ready to call truth to power, who are ready to put service as a priority, who will put people over profit, politics, personal agenda every single time. We believe there's a role to play in helping those leaders. Here's the thing, we don't even know who they are yet. But we know that if we let the injustice that's standing right now in Indiana stand, then we do any leader coming through who wants to run for office in Indiana as an independent, who wants to run for president of this great land as an independent, we do them a disservice by letting this brush under the rug. Lastly, someone said, well, what if you win like behind the scenes? What if they just don't want any action? They just want you to let this drop and they'll let you have what you want. That's very tempting. But that would be prioritizing politics over people. It'd be prioritizing my own agenda over what's necessary for productive, sustainable change into the future. That's why we're taking a hard stand, because we believe in it. We don't need the attention. We don't need the media at this point. They've ignored us this far, right? What we're doing now is standing for what's right. ISIS says expose and dismantle because it's corrupt, doesn't serve the American people, only the politicians fighting for their power to continue to serve themselves. I couldn't have said it any better. So we're excited about this stance that we're taking. It's not something you usually would celebrate with glee, but we do. We feel excited about it because we know the outcome is bigger than us. And we just ask you all to lean into this with us, be patient with us. October 26th, if you're just joining, listen, October 26th, we're storming the gates. I love that, Trish. October 26th, we will give you a drop it. That's our drop it date. We'll come back and say, these are the states that we're going to let go. One of these states, and ISIS remind me, Mississippi, Arkansas, we did the hard work of gathering signatures. We gathered more than enough. And we ended up having a denial there because they said only a fraction of the signatures we gathered were valid. Warning to you all, we meet thousands of people who think they are registered. And they tell us proudly, with no hesitation, I'm a registered voter. And when we go, this is Arkansas and Mississippi, we're having this issue in. When we go to validate them using that state system, they are not in the system. That tells me that thousands of people are going to go to the polls thinking that they are okay to vote. And at the polls, they're going to find out they're not valid. We do believe that's another form of candidate suppression. Sometimes what makes you, voter suppression, excuse me, what makes you invalid is maybe you just changed your address, but you didn't change it on your voter registration. If that doesn't line up, if it doesn't match what's on your driver's license, all of these could be reasons to cause you not to be able to vote or to have your vote not count. And when I tell you, I'm talking about citizens who I know, I see them out in the streets doing the protest. I see them, working with their city council, sitting on the school board. They think they are legitimate voters, and we found out for them that they were not in the system. So we'll be challenging some of those states. We're going back and doing our own due diligence of verifying our own signatures, which we normally do anyway. So you may hear something more from us, Arkansas and Mississippi. But what do you do in the meantime as we stand here? Thank you so much, Mary. She supports standing for what's right. It's a hard stance, Mary, but we believe it's the only one to take. Here's what you do. If you are Team Operation Restoration and you're in any of those states that are challenged, you'll see that on our map at operationrestoration2020.com. I think the challenged states are in gray. When you see those states, if you're in one of those states, stand with us until October 26th. We'll come back with an announcement. These are the states we're going to move forward on a challenge. These are the states we're going to release, and we will tell you if we're releasing you. You're going to need to find your second choice. If you write us in, many of those states, Arkansas and Mississippi, don't even have a write-in slot. Write-in is not allowed in Arkansas and Mississippi. You can scribble us on your ballot if you want, but we can't run as a write-in in those states. If we are able to get on the ballot, we'll let you know. If not, we'll tell you we are releasing your vote, and you are, of course, free. And we encourage you to find, pray over, do what you got to do to find a solid second choice, vote locally, but make sure your voice is heard. October 26th, we'll let you know what's going on there. And then we'll also give you an update on Texas and Indiana. What can you do? Laura reminds us, check and validate your voter's registration. Do that a couple of times. Triple check, because we don't want anyone being ruled invalid. And then also what you can do, send emails, phone calls to the Secretary of State, the State Elections Board in Texas and Indiana. Text RESTORE to 33777. You can join our mailing list. We had a mailing that went out that gave you those instructions. And let them know, hey, we hear what's up in Texas. Jade's our candidate. We don't like what we're hearing, you know, and demand that these states are transparent and that they don't allow these archaic, inconsequential laws to keep voters and candidates that you're interested in suppressed, to keep us off the ballot. So we'll come back to you live. I'm trying to see if there are any other questions before we sign off, but I hope that you appreciate, I've got my comments here, I'll look down the list here, the way that we are doing this. We pledge to not be like any other campaign, that we wanted to be more transparent. Thank you for those who say that the waiting is worth it. We appreciate it. Some of you are saying that's why you haven't voted as of yet. Listen, stay in place. We will keep you informed and we'll let you know. Savannah from Oregon, we're good to go in Oregon. We're good to go there. Yeah, Marcus is saying, my discussion with one of my friends has been centered around who's next because these parties are trash. Marcus, your friends, they're not the only ones who feel that way. 60% of Americans feel like that. 60% of Americans feel like that. Looking, excuse me, for questions to make sure. Thank you so much. LaQuisha said she stayed up until 4 a.m. pushing for us on social. She's here to help. Contact her. Guys, look at her in the comments and get after her. We love people like you, LaQuisha. Beast only, need apply. That's how we do business around here. We love it. Vote your conscience, not your ego. I love that, Marcus. That's awesome. Jared says, it's so aggravating to think what would happen if you just got 10 minutes of primetime coverage on CNN and Fox, but it isn't happening because they won't do it. You know, the problem, Jared, is that, what's his name? I'm thinking of third-party candidate who screwed everything up for the two parties a couple years ago. I'm blanking on his name. Write it in the comments if you know what I'm talking about. But he got out there, probably the most successful independent candidate. He really was a Republican who kind of defected. And what he did was he got on the debate stage, Jared. And the problem was before the debate, he was polling like at 3 or 4%. After the debate, he was like at 17%. And that scared the you-know-what out of the Republicans and Democrats to see an independent soar. And because of him, what they did then was they created the memorandum agreement. Ross Perot, there it is, Ross Perot. Because of Ross Perot, they created the memorandum agreement to keep these aggravating, compelling third-party candidates off of the stage. Hopefully, Joe Jorgensen is saying much of the same. This lady is legitimately on all 50 states on the ballot. Her party, Libertarian Party, is on the ballot in every state, yet she gets no media attention. Blatant disrespect. Has nothing. People say, oh, it's because she's a woman. No, it's a partisan thing that you're seeing. It is very concerning, and I believe this is the start of us as American citizens rising up against this. Whoever loses will probably blame you. Howie and Joe for their loss. Sorry, you know what? We're used to the blame. We've gotten it in advance. The same way they did Jill Stein without actually doing the math. People who stayed home had probably more to do with who lost or won the last election than those who voted for Jill Stein. 7.6 million people came out in 2016 and voted independent. They weren't going to vote right or left no matter what. She didn't steal those votes. Those votes were not earned by either the right or the left. I love that Elijah says, not the right or the left wing. The whole bird is sick. We happen to agree. Jamia says, just imagine how many years we missed out on great presidents because of what has been going on behind the scenes. And Jamia, great conversation, great critical discussion that these other candidates force. That's what's really important. Thank you so much, Barbara. Thank you for your respect. We believe that we are standing to be a role model for the young, but also for those Americans who have become jaded by the political system. So many of you have found hope in how we're speaking and how we're moving, and we really feel that that is the win. That is the win. All right, guys, thank you so much. I'm scrolling to the bottom just to see if there are questions. I love your comments. Yeah, independents are so aggravating, Trish. We are. But you know, if you think about, what is it, pearls, right? You need that adjutant. You need that piece of sand in there to make something beautiful happen. And we believe that a large part of our role is to be an adjutant in the system. Is that the only reason? You better believe that's not the only reason. We're standing because we believe it's possible, especially in this time, in the year of the uncommon, in the year of the impossible, right? In the year of the impossible, we believe this is the best climate to have something as radical and disruptive as an independent storm the White House. And that's what we believe is actually about to happen. We feel the earth shaking. We believe there's more disruption to come. We've been saying we do believe we're the October surprise, and here we are in October. And so we're excited to watch walls fall. We're excited to watch seas part in this season, and we're excited to watch more courageous leaders begin to rise up and dare to speak their voice and dare to speak their mind. So like Topaz says, don't stop sharing, keep sharing, because as this legal disruption ensues, you're probably going to suddenly see more media attention. So we want people to know we've been here. We didn't just jump in yesterday to disrupt, that we've been here since January, have been ignored, but have refused to allow even that shutout to stop us from providing a viable option. So keep sharing now so that when people come to find us, they'll find powerful stuff waiting on them. Here's what I'll end with. We know that the conversion rate for Operation Restoration is high, right, Joanne? That when people find us, they stay. When people find us, it's because they were looking in the first place. So people are looking for this home, which has become a place for the politically homeless. And we're proud that we've stayed standing long enough for them to find us. So do your part by sharing, do your part by reaching out to these states, letting them know that you see. You know, that's half the battle. This stuff is done in the dark. Normally you would never know about it. So we are bringing it to you so that everything in the dark is brought to light. And what you have to do now is let people know you see. We see what you've been doing. Media channel, network, we know about this candidate that you have not brought to us, that you violated your own Fair Coverage Act and have not brought her. State, Secretary of State, election boards, we see you. We know that Jade's paperwork was waiting in your mailroom. You see, when they start to understand that they're not able to hide this, that's when things start to change. Joanne, thank you so much for being proud of me. I'll tell you, I am proud of this team. I am proud of myself. I'm proud of my family because we have stood. And it's not been always a fun ride, but I'll tell you what, it is the most rewarding journey in my life. And we know that we are just getting started. Write letters to the editors. Let them know. Tag people on social media and let them know that you know. That's how things change when the people serving us understand that we see them for who they are and we see them clearly. So thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. OperationRestoration2020.com is where you'll go to keep updated with the state's map. October 26th is our drop date where we'll come back and let you know where we're continuing to fight and where we are releasing your vote so that you can feel free to vote somewhere else. I think I did say, if you vote for us, no matter what, you say, I don't care, I don't have a second choice, is Operation Restoration or no way? Listen, we are honored by that. It's just our duty to let you know that the vote may not count in those areas if we have not said that we've won the challenge. And what you'd be doing is having a protest vote, right? So we just want you to know the difference so that you can choose wisely and have the information in front of you. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you leave questions in the comments, I may have time over the week to come back and answer them personally. Thank you so much for all of your love, all of your support. Have a good night. Hey everyone, it's Jade Simmons here, your one and only truly independent candidate for President of the United States. We promised you, Operation Restoration promised you, we would stay standing for this moment, which is the moment that you actually get to vote for us. We have done the hard work of making sure that we are a viable
powerful option for millions of Americans. For as many Americans as possible, we're now available as an option. Go to operationrestoration2020.com. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram, and you'll see that we release a states map. On that map, you're going to see which states you can vote for us in and how to vote for us. Some places you're going to see my name and my running mate's name, Claudelia J. Rose. You'll see us both on the ballot right next to the other guys. In other states, in the majority of states, we're running as registered write-ins. The key is that word registered, because we did the hard work of going state by state and registering and filing paperwork. When you write us in, that vote counts the exact same as it would as if you were voting with our name on the ballot. It's exactly the same because of that word registered. We've done that work for you. So in some states you'll go, they'll give you a list of all the write-in candidates. Don't be alarmed. There are a lot of write-in candidates that the media also didn't tell you about, but you're there to write us in. You're going to write in my name, Jade Simmons. You'll see the spelling at the bottom there. Some will have a space for you to write in. The vice presidential running mate, Claudelia Rose. We have that name coming across the screen as well. You can also write in a variation, J. Simmons and C. Rose. In some places, you'll only have to write in my name, Jade Simmons. Either way, your vote counts powerfully. We believe a wasted vote is only a vote for something that you don't believe in. In some states, they won't provide you with a list of the write-ins. Those states' names are scrolling across the screen right now. And in those states, you still write my name in. They may only have one line. You write Jade Simmons in. You could write J. Simmons/C. Rose. But they'll know who you're talking about because we've notified them regardless of whether or not they required paperwork. We went over and above to make sure we're available. Let's talk very briefly about the states that you'll see we are challenging. We've been honest about it, quite a bit of candidate suppression, which we also believe is voter suppression. In those states, you'll see that we're challenging them, and we're doing that legally behind the scenes. In other states, we may be putting up a challenge simply because of COVID-19 restrictions and circumstances that made it very difficult to gather signatures in order to be on the ballot. We're disappointed because some of those states were places where you would actually see our name on the ballot. But never fear, we will fight until the last possible minute. Be patient with us. Withhold your vote until it's time. And if we cannot be a viable option, you better believe we'll come and tell you that as well so that you can vote accordingly. But be patient as we fight this out. We have promised to fight and stay standing so that we can be an option for you, and we are going to hold true to that promise. Anyway, we're excited as time winds down. Expectation is high. We're so thrilled that many of you are letting us know you've gone to the polls powerfully, written us in, or voted for us on the ballot, and you felt proud of that vote. You felt excited about what it meant for the future of our nation, and that is exactly what we wanted to do. We have vowed to represent people who do not feel represented, and we are humbled by the way that you are choosing us so powerfully. So thank you. Let us know if you have questions. Email info@operationrestoration2020.com. If you're having any trouble at the polls, if you don't see our name on the write-in list, if we're supposed to be on the ballot and you don't see us, let us know so we can be about the business of rectifying that issue. Okay, be blessed as you go. Be safe as you go. Take care and stay expectant.